Hello, Misfits. This is Kate.
And this is Kevin.
Welcome to Horrorwood. It is Thanksgiving week here at Horrorwood, if you're in the United States.
Correct.
If you are not in the United States, it's just a November week here
You're
at
having
Horrorwood.
a normal day.
Just a regular old November week.
Mm-hmm.
And something that we are thankful for right now, we have a new Patronian.
A new Patronian, Sarah Newell.
She's our newest Misfit Murderino.
Welcome in. We are thankful for you on this Thanksgiving week.
Woo, woo. Thank you so much.
Yes.
We say it every time, but like truly.
No, thank you, seriously.
Your guys' support means literally everything to us.
No, everything.
Every review, every rating, every subscriber, like it's the only reason we can keep doing what we're doing. So thank you so much.
Every time I see a new subscriber pop up like in the email or like on Patreon, I go, I gasp.
I know, I get a little excited. Like, ooh.
Anyway.
And now we have Apple Podcast subscriptions
Yeah.
too. So people can subscribe there. You can just be subscribing all over the place.
Yeah, maybe Patreon's not your thing and you just want to be all in one place for your podcasts.
Yeah. We get
Apple's the way to go.
We get it. And we are working on getting all of the bonus episodes uploaded.
Yeah.
I don't know when they will all fully be there, but they will be there.
They'll get there.
It's all gonna be smooth sails soon.
Yes.
Do you have plans for Thanksgiving? Are you doing anything?
I have not made any plans.
I wasn't sure if you were going to West Virginia.
No, I'm going to West Virginia for Christmas.
Okay.
I got invited to go out to Michigan to see my friend, but I'm not feeling like traveling.
I totally get it.
I think it might be one of those Thanksgivings where I stay at home and I order a Thanksgiving dinner from Ann Sather's.
Oh my God. Please, just for me,
Cinnamon rolls.
get the cinnamon rolls. Get an extra one and just have it in
Just eat it for you?
Just think about me
Okay.
when you get it.
I will. Yeah, last year or a couple of years ago when I did it, it's a really good meal, and it came with a piece of pie and a cinnamon roll.
I remember you telling me about it, and I still think about it.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm gonna do.
Oh my
that
God.
sounds nice.
I want an Ann Sather cinnamon roll right here in my face right now.
So good.
Okay, just had to have a moment for the
Okay.
cinnamon rolls. Well, whether you are traveling right now as you listen to this, or you're prepping your Turkey Day menu, or you're chilling out, maxing, relaxing on, cool on your couch.
Basting that turkey to the sounds of crime. Sorry, that sounds weird.
But maybe that's what you're
Maybe
doing.
that's what's happening.
Well, I've got a Thanksgiving episode for you today.
Yay.
I'd hold off on the yay.
Yay to the holiday, boo to the subject matter.
Yeah, it's a real downer.
Okay.
But we have a special bonus episode that we'll be releasing tomorrow that will bring you right back up again. It's a fun one.
It's so fun.
So be sure to tune into that. We get to do a fun little interview, get to talk to some really cool people. And I know, like, as podcast listeners, like sometimes when you hear that there's going to be a guest on, you're kind of like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I understand that.
It's
I
like
get that
a
way
different
sometimes.
format, and it's like, oh man, this is so fun.
Yeah.
They are super cool film people. We're going to be talking about a film that they created, and it's awesome. So this is going to bring you down. That's going to bring you up.
Right back up.
That's tomorrow, so be sure to tune in.
Yes.
Today, we've got... This is a terrible segue as I'm saying it, but today we've got one of the deadliest building disasters in U.S. history that, believe it or not, started out as a lot of fun.
Okay, and then went to shit is what I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're going back to Thanksgiving weekend of 1942 in Boston, Massachusetts.
Hey, Boston. Have you been?
Yeah.
I've never been to Boston.
I've been once. It was really fun.
Okay.
There's a picture I'll show you in the hallway of us we did a little booze cruise.
Yes.
We're boat people these days.
I think that's fabulous and amazing.
When you're in your middle age, you start saying things like, we're boat people.
Are cruises coming in the near future?
You know what? I'm not a cruise person. That's so interesting. I'm a boat person.
Not a cruise person.
Been on one cruise, and I was like, I don't need to do this again.
I did the same thing. I did that cruise in Hawaii, and I was just like, fuck this noise.
I would rather just like actually see the place I'm going to
than look at it from a boat on the ocean.
Yeah, or like be forced to be back 3 hours later and get on the boat.
I love those TikTok videos though of people running toward the ship and they've completely lost track of time.
Oh God.
And the ship is pulling away.
Oh God.
And they're fucked.
That is my nightmare.
Yeah. Anyway.
Well, this is also a thing of nightmares.
Okay.
So we're in Massachusetts. We're in Boston. It's Thanksgiving weekend. There is a palpable excitement in the air because the undefeated Boston College football team was going to be playing their rival, Holy Cross. And if you've been listening to us for a while, you know that Kevin and I couldn't care less about football.
In my head, when you said the names of those teams, I didn't register them. I just went, okay.
You're like, that's nice.
Nice.
Well, Thanksgiving, people in America love their college football. And I guess professional football plays Thanksgiving weekend too. Yeah, they do. I look at you as though you know the football schedule.
If you want me to start learning it, I'm happy to.
No need.
Okay,
no need. So people were excited. Mm-hmm. This was like a big thing that people could rally around. I'm going to Matt's family's for Thanksgiving, and they're big sports people.
Okay.
And like Ohio State, because they're in Ohio. So like Ohio State, they're into, I think that's the football team. Yeah, that is. I know it is. And I'm sure that there's going to be a lot of sports watching and like football time.
Get those pig skins out.
Make those points. Alrighty. The Boston College Eagles were ranked number 1 in the nation when they faced the Holy Cross Crusaders. So there's a lot of excitement in Boston that weekend. The game was being played at the iconic Fenway Park, and the Eagles' win would secure them an invitation to play in the Sugar Bowl on New Year's Day.
Sugar Bowl.
Which I'm told is a big thing. This gave Bostonians something to rally around and celebrate, something that they desperately needed at this time, given the fact that this was the first Thanksgiving since the United States had officially entered into World War II.
Oh, God.
And the holidays looked a little different during the war. Christmas lights were prohibited. Boston's a coastal city, and in order to make coastal cities less visible to enemy planes and submarines, the government didn't want like a bunch of Christmas lights attracting attention.
Oh God, I had never heard of that.
They would have dim outs where like everyone had to turn all the outdoor lights off. You couldn't have Christmas lights, so that was a thing. And then when it came to Christmas presents, there just weren't that many products on the shelves during the war. The government made a big push for Americans to purchase war bonds as Christmas gifts and relied heavily on Hollywood to help with that effort. It's come up in previous episodes that we've done, how Hollywood made a lot of war propaganda movies and military training films, and how studios would encourage their stars to sell war bonds by doing bond tours, like Carole Lombard, who we talked about in the My Man Godfrey episode. Among Carole Lombard's many co-stars during her career was Buck Jones. Buck was another star who toured the country selling war bonds with a stop in Boston on Thanksgiving weekend, 1942. He was born in Vincennes, Indiana, as Charles Gebhardt. Buck Jones was a stage name that he took once he started acting. His birth year has been listed differently depending on the source, but his marriage license states he was born in December of 1891. His parents divorced when he was young and his mother remarried, which he wasn't thrilled with. I don't know what exactly was going on at home, but he wasn't loving it. And so he actually briefly moved in with another couple that lived nearby, and he was very young when he did this. He just didn't want to be at home. But when his new stepdad got a job at Indianapolis, Buck moved there with the family.
Okay.
According to BWesterns.com, Buck left school after the 8th grade and never finished. And when he was just 16 years old, he enlisted in the Army by having his mom sign a consent form stating that he was 18. So it kind of makes me wonder if he enlisted just to get out of the house, like kind of like Disney.
Yep.
Because Disney he was 16 when he tried to enlist, but they turned him away because
Right.
they knew his real age. So then he lied to the Red Cross and said he was 18, or no, you had to be 17 to drive the ambulance. So he lied and said he was 17 just so that he could basically get out of the house.
Yeah.
And I didn't hear of any abuse with Buck's stepdad, but it just kind of makes me wonder, like, if that was part of the reason he wanted to leave, was just he didn't like being at home.
Sure.
The Army sent Buck to the Philippines, where he served 2 years from 1907 to 1909 when he was honorably discharged after getting wounded. Back in Indianapolis, Buck developed a love for cars and befriended race car driver Harry Stillman. Through that relationship, he got a job at a motor company, which had him test driving cars at the newly opened Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Hey.
This was just 1 year before the Indy 500 became an event.
That's crazy.
I thought that was fascinating.
That is really fascinating. I only know of NASCAR because my dad was really into it when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would sit there and watch races, not really caring, but
they
cool.
were on.
But they were on.
And so you watched.
Hey, cool. Go around that track.
You go. Despite having a job that he loved, Buck didn't want to stay in Indianapolis. So he rejoined the Army in 1910, where he served as a sergeant in a cavalry. I kept wanting to say cavalry.
Yeah.
It's not cavalry. It's
No, I know.
cavalry, which
Cavalry.
is for some reason hard for me to say. He was last stationed in Texas before being discharged in 1913. And when he got out, he heard about a Wild West show that was hiring. And since he learned to ride horses in the cavalry, he was like, I could be in a Wild West show. Giddy up.
Get into
Let's
it.
go. And as it turned out, he was a pretty great performer.
Good.
Soon after, a beautiful woman named Odile, or Dell as she was called,
Okay.
Osborne, who happened to be a talented equestrienne, joined the show, and Buck fell head over heels. So in 2015, nope.
Smash cut a century later.
They're still alive.
And riding horses.
So in 1915, when Dell left that show to join another Wild West show, Buck said, hey, you know what? I'll come with you.
Yeah.
Within months, Dell and Buck decided to get married. The only problem was they couldn't afford a wedding. So the owners of the show that they were both performing in told the couple, no problem, we'll pay for your whole ceremony if you get married during one of the performances. Like early reality TV.
Yes.
So Dell and Buck were like, hell yeah, we'll take a free wedding. They got married on horseback during one of the shows. The minister was also on horseback. And clearly it worked out because they were together for life.
I love that so much. It reminds me of a video I watched of this woman, older woman. She's on a horse. It's some kind of patriotic event.
Okay.
She has a cowboy uniform on, like long blonde hair. And she's like operatically, not greatly singing like the national anthem.
Okay.
And her horse is being really crazy a little bit. And a guy is trying to like help.
Oh.
And then it smash cuts to her like on a stretcher.
No. Was she okay?
Yeah,
okay.
I think so.
But I
But
don't
it
feel
was
too
just
bad.
like, it's crazy.
Oh my God. Let me guess, TikTok?
Yeah, you got it.
All right. So eventually, Buck and Dell formed their own equestrian show and joined the Ringling Brothers Circus.
Hey, we've talked all about these circuses.
We know all about the circus.
They're coming around.
Dell became pregnant while they were touring with the Ringling Brothers, which imagine being pregnant on tour with a circus in a horse show. No, thank you.
That's too much.
Too much.
I'm sorry.
When the Ringling Brothers went to Los Angeles, shortly before their baby was born, Buck decided to leave the circus and try to get a job working at the studios. Something a little bit more stable, maybe try to make a little bit more money.
Also, if you're pregnant, you don't want like just some random clown delivering your baby. I could just imagine like they pull out the flags that never end.
Just like babies that never end. Just the visual. So he starts flirting with some studios, and he was easy to talk to. He got along well with others, which in filmmaking is hugely important. He was attractive, he knew how to ride a horse, and he was a natural performer. So Universal quickly hired him as a stuntman and a bit player, making $5 a day. Okay money for back then.
For then.
He began making a name for himself in the industry, leading to more work and higher pay. And after some time spent at a couple of different studios, Fox hired him on as a stuntman for $40 a week. So he's moving up.
Moving on up.
He's working steadily. He's proving himself to be a reliable and valuable asset to the studio. So Fox upped his salary to $150 a week.
Whoa.
The big star at Fox at that time was Tom Mix, who appeared in a number of Westerns.
Okay.
But he was giving the studio problems because he kept asking for more money. So Fox decided to bring Buck up as its next star, kind of as a warning to Tom Mix, like, be careful, buddy. Like,
you're replaceable.
Exactly. He's going to come in and take your place if you cause us any more trouble. The studio started putting Buck in bigger and bigger roles, no longer as just a stuntman.
Okay.
Even though Tom and Buck were basically pitted against each other, they actually became best friends.
Oh, weird.
I love that.
I wasn't expecting that.
They both just really respected each other and each other's work. And so...
That's lovely.
Yeah.
I love that.
They were super close despite literally being in direct competition for jobs. Buck's star continued to rise, eventually earning him a salary of $2,500 a week.
Whoa.
Which was big money.
That's astronomical.
And in 1920, he had his first starring role in a film called The Last Straw, which was very well received. He went on to act in dozens of films for Fox, mostly doing all his own stunts, and became a really strong performer, both as a dramatic actor and as the comic relief. Very well-rounded.
Good for him. He's riding horses. He's telling jokes. He's showing emotions.
He's doing all of those things and doing them well.
And good.
Doing it and doing it and doing it well.
Oh, I love that song. It's been years.
Film historian William K. Iverson said, quote, he was one of the best among Western stars. As I already mentioned, he starred opposite Carole Lombard. Carole was also from Indiana, and they were part of a group of actors at the time known as the Indiana Colony. Which was basically just actors from Indiana who helped each other navigate their way through Hollywood, which I love.
That's amazing.
They were like, oh, you're from Indiana? Here.
Come on over. Let us show you
Be
the
in my
ropes.
film. By the late 20s, Buck's career was at a high. He was a bona fide star of Westerns. However, this is the time when talkies started getting popular.
Here come the talkies.
Western stars in particular were at a disadvantage because the majority of Westerns are shot outdoors. And at the time, studios didn't know how to handle sound equipment on exterior locations. There's a lot of additional bulky gear you've got to haul around. You've got these outdoor sounds now that are competing with the actors, like the sound of horses running while actors are saying dialogue. Studios just hadn't figured it out yet. So in 1927, Fox chose not to renew Buck's contract or that of Tom Mix's. Several Western stars were suddenly out of luck.
Well, that's bullshit.
Yeah, it was rough. But Buck was never one to just sit around.
Okay.
Within months, he formed his own production company with the help of independent distributors. In 1928, he released his first film, The Big Hop, in which he played the lead role. But it was a silent film. So at the last minute, he was like, I better add some sound to this.
Okay.
There was no dialogue, so he just added some sound effects, crossed his fingers, and hoped people liked it. They did not. It bombed.
Oh, shit. When a new medium's coming up and everyone's like, this is amazing, this is what we want, this is the future.
You can't go back. He lost a ton of money and pissed off all those distributors who thought they were going to get a return on their investment. And then the stock market crashed.
Blast.
Buck had a lot of money in stocks, and now that was gone. So his days of independent filmmaking were over as quickly as they began. But he's a go-getter. He doesn't give up easily. So he put together his own Wild West show, going back to his roots. He, Dell, and their now 11-year-old daughter, Maxine, all performed in the show, and they toured it around to different cities. Unfortunately, the guy he hired to handle the finances mismanaged the money. That, along with the Great Depression keeping a lot of would-be audience members at home, caused the show to go bust after just 2 months.
No, he's trying.
He's trying hard, but he lost about $250,000 on that venture. Yeah.
Ooh, okay, that's tough.
Things aren't going great.
No, not at all.
On top of that, a lot of his performers hadn't been paid because of the mismanagement of the finances, and he was in debt to several creditors. So in 1930, he really had no choice except to file for bankruptcy with just $500 to his name. I mean, he went from
big money.
Big money. It's scary how fast that can happen.
Also, what's the show where they scream big money, big money?
Big money, big money. Is it
Price is Right or is it Wheel of Fortune?
Maybe it's Wheel of Fortune. Maybe. I feel like I've heard that too.
Right?
Big money, big money. Or is there like what's the one, the whammies? If you get one of the three like characters, you're out.
Oh, I don't know that one.
You know what? Maybe
it doesn't matter. I'm sorry.
Moving on. Buck, once again, he managed to pick himself back up. He went back to the studios and got hired to make some low-budget B-movie westerns for a fraction of what he'd been earning.
Okay.
But work begets work. Columbia Pictures put him on the payroll, and his salary started to increase once again. And as a way to boost ticket sales, Columbia created the Buck Jones Rangers Club, which was a fan club marketed towards kids. The club gained millions of members. When you think about that back then, like the 1930s, millions of fan club members, like that's a lot now.
That's huge.
I feel like back then, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Damn. Over the years, his career continued to have its ups and downs, like literally every career in the entertainment industry. And in the late 30s, he starred in a radio program called Hoofbeats, all about the adventures of Buck Jones and his horse, Silver. Here's a little clip.
Whoa, steady, Silver. Howdy, partner. Silver, you know, is my horse. I never appear without him. I'm mighty glad to have a chance to chin with you for a minute before Hoofbeats begins. I just want to tell you that I'm right certain we're going to be real pals. We're interested in outdoor exercises and clean living. Picking up for the underdogs, aren't we? Well, since we feel that way about it, I thought it'd be a good idea if we got up a club. After the first chapter in our story, suppose we talk it over, you know, man to man. What do you say? Until then, partners, I'll be looking out for you.
And that's the exact speech I give to men when I meet them at bars.
What do you say we start up a club?
Right.
Just some good clean
hey there,
living.
sugar. Why don't you...
Man to man.
No, but seriously, I love old-timey radio shows.
Oh, I do too. I love when I can find clips like that. Also, I just now caught that he says man to man, but there were a lot of young girls who were fans and members of this club. Just had to put it out there. I think it was during his days on the radio that he realized all the money is in product endorsements and merch. Grape Nut cereal was the radio show's sponsor, and I feel like almost half the program, because I listened to a few chapters they were called, I feel like half of it is just Buck Jones telling kids they should eat Grape Nut cereal. And that's also how they joined his club. They had to send in box tops from Grape Nut cereal to get membership into the club. I mean, it's kind of marketing genius.
Absolutely. And it's very like a Christmas Story when Ralphie does
the Ovaltine.
And it's like, drink more Ovaltine.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. And I think also like he was trying to appeal to parents and teachers of like, hey, I'm a good, wholesome fella, so your kids should look up to me. It was that kind of vibe. And eat Grape Nut cereal. They're delicious. So he lent his likeness to magazines, books. There was a model air rifle named after him. He was getting those endorsement deals.
He found the money tap and turned it on.
Sure did. Despite his popularity, he rarely carried the cowboy persona into his personal life because like some Western stars back then, they would wear their cowboy outfits out in public to be like, hey, I'm a cowboy, recognize me? But Buck never did that because he thought it made him look like he was showing off. Like he would only do it if it was for like visiting a children's hospital or, you know, some kind of special thing like that.
Sure.
In real life, he was quiet and studious. He was a voracious reader, which helped make him a stronger, more well-rounded performer. But as he approached his 50s, the acting roles started to dry up.
Okay.
Now the hot commodity was cowboys that could sing, like Roy Rogers and Gene Autry. So Buck resigned himself to the fact that he was no longer going to be playing the hero cowboy.
Okay.
If he got an acting job, he'd likely be playing the villain.
Oh, God.
Well, I mean, that's still a role.
No, I know. Sorry.
Oh, God.
Oh, my God.
Not the
No.
villain. Villains are way more fun to play.
No, I could absolutely.
But his friend and business manager, Scott Dunlap, had other ideas. Scott had known Buck for a couple of decades. He was a well-known producer of Western movies and had even directed Buck several times earlier in his career.
Mm-hmm.
So Scott told him, my dude, you are still a hero to millions of kids all over. They still want to see Cowboy Buck Jones. And he pitched him the idea of a buddy series that would star Buck and 2 other Western stars, all around 50 years of age or older. In 1941, they formed the Rough Riders film series.
Ooh.
These films were popular and upheld Buck's status as a movie star. So when Hollywood encouraged its celebrities to help sell war bonds, Scott Dunlap thought it was a great opportunity for Buck. He was like, hey, you can contribute to the war effort and promote our next 2 upcoming Rough Riders films. Look at that. So in November of 1942, Scott and Buck set out on a 1.5-week-long journey going to various cities across the country on a war bond tour. Their last stop? Boston, Massachusetts. It was late when their train pulled into town. They arrived about 10 p.m. on Friday night, November 27th, the day after Thanksgiving. Buck was exhausted, and he'd been coming down with a nasty cold while on the trip. I doubt he was getting much sleep on the train. And think about the different cities and the different climates he passed through in a short amount of time, because they start in sunny Southern California and then go to freezing cold Boston. So when he got off the train that Friday night, he just wanted to go to bed.
Yeah.
But there were several servicemen waiting at the depot in hopes of getting to meet him, so he dutifully signed autographs for all of them and then went to go meet his publicist, Martin Sheridan, to go over the itinerary for the weekend, and Martin also interviewed him for a radio program. So, he kind of hits the ground running.
Oh, my God, that's too much. And he's just like, let me fucking
He's like,
go
I
to
just need to go to the hotel. Saturday was an even busier day for Buck, full of appearances and obligations. And one of those appearances was as an attendee at the highly anticipated Boston College football game against Holy Cross. Buck was a guest of Boston Mayor Maurice Tobin. The stadium was packed. And remember, Buck is sick. The last thing he wants to do is be around a bunch of people. But Martin, the publicist, had made all of these arrangements, and Buck felt like it was his duty to show up. It felt like all of Boston had turned out at Fenway Park that afternoon. And a huge celebratory dinner for the Boston College Eagles was planned for later that night at the famed Coconut Grove Supper Club. The Coconut Grove was the brainchild of singer Mickey Alpert and band leader Jacques Renard. Mickey had always wanted a classy club in Boston where people could come to dance, and Jacques had always wanted a club/restaurant. Plus, he already had a pretty big following in the city and was able to attract an audience, so the 2 men teamed up. They purchased a plain concrete building at 17 Piedmont Street, not far from the Park Square Theater District, and just about 2 blocks from Boston Common. Part of the building was used as a garage and office for a film distribution company. And so I think part of that still stayed, and they converted the main portion of it. They had grand plans for the space, and that was going to cost big money. So you can imagine how delighted they were when they met a man from California who said, I love this business idea. I want to invest, and I've got millions of dollars to do it. So Mickey and Jacques were like, oh my God, it just so happens we were hoping to run into someone with millions of dollars to give us. You're in.
Amazing.
This benefactor was from California, and he suggested they model the club after the Coconut Grove in LA at the Ambassador Hotel. So same name, same decor. It looked like a tropical paradise inside.
Ooh, pretty.
They had fake palm trees, the main dining room, imitation leather covering the walls, a big old dance floor, and an area for the band.
I remember in Parkersburg, West Virginia, when I was growing up, one of the restaurants, like the fancy restaurants in town, was called Sebastian's.
Oh.
And it was this little place tucked away kind of in a wooded area off a main road. And they had this giant fountain inside that had like bubbles in it.
Okay.
And everything was like velvet decor, like very 80s, 90s.
So schmancy.
But amazing.
Yes.
I love a fancy restaurant.
Just 3 days before the club opened, however, this mysterious benefactor was arrested.
Oh, God. Well, fuck.
Turns out he was a mobster who'd been manipulating the oil stock market and had stolen millions of dollars from investors.
Okay.
He was planning to use the club as a way to launder money. With him out, Mickey and Jacques had to scramble to get the club open, which they did on October 27th, 1927. Despite being smack in the middle of Prohibition, the venue started off successfully. Although Jacques was dead set against serving any alcohol, he and Mickey were able to bring in great entertainers to perform, and people enjoyed the atmosphere. However, once the stock market crashed in 1929, people really just wanted a drink. Like, they just needed it.
Yeah. They're like, you took it away. Everything went to shit. Now fucking give it back.
And if the Grove wasn't going to serve them, they were going to go somewhere else. So the club really struggled and was on the edge of bankruptcy. This led to a lot of bitterness and fighting between Jacques and Mickey. Both men wanted out, and they both left. Mickey's brother George was an attorney, so he took it upon himself to sell the place. Enter another mobster.
Keep them coming.
Charles Solomon, also known as King Solomon, also known as the Capone of the East.
The Capone of the East. Oh, we're getting wicked witchy here.
He purchased the club in 1931 with the help of his lawyer, Barney Wilansky. I feel like every time you say his name, you got to say it like Barney Wilansky. Solomon owned a number of hotels and clubs in Boston where he was able to smuggle in all the booze and drugs he wanted, which he then sold for a profit.
Yeah.
But of all his businesses, the Coconut Grove was his most prized possession. He pulled out all the stops when it came to the entertainment. He brought in some of the biggest performers of the time. Sophie Tucker, Betty Grable, Texas Guinan. She's come up before, I think, in our Joe Crater episode. Jimmy Durant, Guy Lombardo, Rudy Valley. The Grove was where it was at.
Wow.
But there was the whole Solomon is a ruthless gangster thing, and eventually that lifestyle caught up to him when he was gunned down in 1933 at another club.
Well, if you run in a certain circle...
I feel like you had to see it coming.
Right.
His death meant that his widow, Bertha, I just needed to say Bertha.
I love the name Bertha.
Can I tell you, I don't remember where I was going, but I was on a road trip. It was just me, and I stopped in some little like 2-street town, and I went into this diner, and one of the menu items was the Big Bertha. And I was like, obviously I have to get the Big Bertha. And so when she came and asked for my order, I was like, I want the Big Bertha. And she was like, you got it.
You got it. There's also an arcade game called Feed Big Bertha, and it has like a big round woman's face, and you throw balls into her mouth to win. Cause it's awful. I hate it.
I was going to say, that sounds kind of horrible.
It's awful. And I only ever played it once, and I felt bad because I was like, this feels gross.
Yeah. You know what wasn't gross? The Big Bertha at this diner.
Justice for Big Bertha.
This Bertha, Solomon's widow, now owned the Grove. But in the final audit of his estate, the Grove was listed as having no value. Oddly, and very soon after Solomon's death, ownership of the club transferred from Bertha to Barney Wilansky, Solomon's lawyer.
Oh, no. You can't trust that guy.
He couldn't have been more thrilled, Kevin. He was so excited. His older brother, James, was in the nightclub business because, he wasn't. He was a lawyer. What's he doing with a club? But his brother, James, was in the business, despite having once been charged with murder, though he somehow convinced a grand jury not to indict him, even though the evidence really didn't look great for him.
See?
Anyway, it seemed Barney was ready to follow in his brother's footsteps. Barney was all about turning those profits. He hired Rose Ponzi to be the club's bookkeeper. She was the ex-wife of Charles Ponzi.
Ponzi scheme.
Exactly. I feel like you'd want to avoid hiring someone with the last name of Ponzi to keep your books.
Yeah,
I don't
maybe.
know. Just my thoughts. He convinced Mickey Alpert to return to the Grove because remember, Mickey was out. He left.
He didn't want to be there.
Well, now he's back and became the master of ceremonies. And Bernie Fazioli became the club's new band leader. Once Prohibition ended, things really popped off. The day the law was repealed, Barney had carpenters at a bar just off the main dining room. They built it in 9 hours, and it was the longest bar in the city at 48 feet long.
48 feet?
Yeah. It featured tons of drawings of celebrities and was known as the Caricature Bar.
Wow.
Barney expanded the club to the downstairs, which already contained the kitchen, by adding a piano bar known as the Melody Lounge, and he brought in the Grove's original designer to decorate that space. So just like the main dining room, the Melody Lounge was adorned with those fake palm trees, and inside the coconut husks, which were hollow, were tiny light bulbs to create a moody, dimly lit atmosphere.
I like it.
There was an octagonal bar and a revolving piano stand, and the lounge could seat about 100 people.
Okay.
Dark blue satin fabrics covered the ceiling and draped down about 1.5 feet to give the room an even more intimate feel and to mimic the evening sky. When the weather was good, patrons could dine and dance underneath the actual sky because Barney installed a retractable roof in the main dining room.
Well, hot damn.
Pulling out all the
fancy.
stops. The dance floor was huge and was right in the center of the dining area. Then there were tables and chairs along the sides. The band had their stage at one end of the room, and on the other end was the terrace. Despite its name, the terrace was not outdoors. It was just a raised section of the main dining room that was reserved for VIPs, like politicians and celebrities. And there was a railing around it to make it feel even more exclusive. You were above everyone. You had the best seat in the house. So you've got the main dining room, which is street level. Then downstairs, you've got the Melody Lounge and the kitchen. Eventually, Barney purchased a couple more buildings to expand the club even further, and these had multiple stories. So those second and third floors became dressing rooms for performers, locker rooms for employees, that kind of thing, and the main floor became the Broadway Lounge, named that because it bordered Broadway Street.
I'm building a little model here.
I know, I see it. I see it. I like it.
I see it. I see the club.
He's drawing it in the air. So there's all these different lounges, plus, of course, restrooms, coat check rooms, that sort of thing. The Coconut Grove is massive. It was licensed to hold about 460 people. After all the additions, it had a square footage of 10,250.
That's huge.
Yeah. And all these different rooms are connected by narrow hallways and stairwells and one big maze.
It sounds fun. I mean, obviously, I know it's probably not going to be when we talk more, but just, like a big club.
Yeah, people were into it.
Yeah, get your drinks, get your food.
It was the place to hang out. Now, Barney Wolanski over there, he was a shrewd businessman. He placed himself in charge of obtaining all the licenses and permits and overseeing all the alterations. But he wasn't really one with legalities, per se. For him, it was all about the bottom line. How much profit can he make? And if that meant cutting corners or limiting the exits of the club so diners couldn't skip out on their bills, or failing to apply for new building permits with each expansion, or getting building inspectors to look the other way, then that's what he was going to do.
And the tides have turned.
He knew he wouldn't face any repercussions because he and his brother James were major financial contributors to the campaign of Mayor Maurice Tobin. Which brings me back to Buck Jones, who on Saturday, November 28th, 1942, attended the big football game at Fenway Park with Mayor Tobin. Fans cheered on the undefeated Boston College Eagles, but as the game progressed, the cheers turned to disappointment. The Holy Cross Crusaders were ahead. That disappointment turned to complete shock and disbelief when Holy Cross beat the Eagles in a stunning 55-12 upset.
Well, that sounds bad.
Yeah, it is. Trust me. They did not receive the invitation to play in the Sugar Bowl after all, and their celebration that was to take place that evening at the Coconut Grove was canceled. Meanwhile, Buck was still ticking off all his to-dos that publicist Martin Sheridan had outlined for him. After the game, Buck stopped by a children's hospital to surprise some sick kids that were eager to meet a cowboy. Then he, Martin, and Scott Dunlap took a cab out to Newton, Massachusetts for a cocktail party with some local movie executives. Buck powered through it because he was the guest of honor, but he was feeling miserable. He pulled Martin aside and said, "Man, I need to get some rest. Do you mind if we skip our final stop for the night?" He was supposed to make an appearance at the Buddies Club, which was an organization for men serving in the military, but he was like, "I'm not going to make it. I just want to go back to the hotel." So Martin said, "I get it. I'll cancel it right now. As soon as we're done here, we'll get you back to your hotel."
Good.
But all of these movie executives threw things for a loop when they said, "Hey, guess what? We've planned a big party for you at the Coconut Grove tonight." And Buck was like, "No."
He's like, "Please, God."
He's like, I can't tonight. I'm so sorry." But they were like, "Oh, come on. You're the guest of honor. You have to come. We won't take no for an answer." So Buck let out a sigh and said, "All right." The group dispersed. Everyone went back to their homes and picked up their spouses to join them at the Grove. Buck's wife, Dell, was back in California, so she obviously didn't go. And Scott Dunlap, who had also traveled from California, didn't have family members with him, but everyone else did.
Okay.
Martin Sheridan did not want to go to the Grove. He's the publicist, remember?
Right.
He'd never been before, had no desire, but given the situation, he kind of had to. So he went to his home and he picked up his wife, Connie. Connie was excited. She had a new mink coat that she wanted to show off.
Connie?
Plus, it was right after this huge holiday. It was time to relax a little. She was like, "This will be fun. It's a night out." And that's what everyone was looking for at that time. A way to take their minds off of the war for a couple of hours, a way to escape the freezing Boston temperatures outside, and to just have fun. In all, there were 27 people in Buck's group at the Grove. The group included Charles Stearns, a manager at United Artists who had come in from New York, Eugene Gross, an executive at Monogram Pictures, which was the company producing the Rough Riders series, Paul Barron and Moses Grassgreen, they were both executives at Universal Pictures. There were presidents of companies along with several movie theater owners, all of whom brought their wives, and in the case of Fred Sharby, who owned a movie theater, he brought his wife and his son. They were seated on the terrace, of course. But sometimes you could score a seat on the terrace even if you weren't a so-called VIP. 15-year-old Eleanor Champa was so excited to be at the Grove on this night. Her older brother was home on leave from the war, so as a special treat, he invited his little sister Eleanor to join him, his wife, and another couple at the Grove, and they had scored seats on the coveted terrace. When Eleanor looked over and saw Buck Jones, she freaked out. She was a fan of his. She was like, "Oh my God, there's a movie star right there." Like, she's so excited.
She's like, "You're amazing. I love you. I love grape nuts so much.
Eat it every morning. This is the best night of my life.
Think of you. You're great."
She must have been having the time of her life. It's the holidays. Her brother's home. He's treating her to a special night out. And she'd always wanted to go to this club. It was the place to be. And on this particular Saturday, a lot of other people in Boston felt the same way, choosing the Grove as their destination to forget about the war, forget about the cold, forget about Boston College losing. They just wanted to have a fun night out. The club filled up quickly. The staff expected a busy night, being that it was a weekend, but they didn't expect the more than 1,000 patrons that showed up that night.
But isn't just for like 400 something?
460 is the maximum occupancy.
And they had 1,000 people in there?
And they just kept letting people in.
No. Friends, listen. Being in such a crowded environment is terrifying.
Yeah. Now, Barney Wilansky, he wasn't there that night. He'd actually had a heart attack 12 days earlier and was still in the hospital. So his brother James was at the club to oversee things. As the club filled up, employees ran around setting up extra tables and chairs. They started adding dining tables onto the dance floor. The coat check became so overwhelmed that they just started piling coats up on the floor. It was madness. Some would-be diners showed up and saw how crowded it was, and they were like, you know what, let's just go somewhere else.
Yeah.
But others waited until a table became available. Like employees would be like, don't worry, I'll grab you a chair. The staff was cramming people in as tight as they could.
No.
They would seat a party of 6 at a table meant for 2. Like it was packed. You were shoulder to shoulder with people. And the smell in that club, think cigarette smoke mixed with perfume, plus the food on everyone's plates, and more than 1,000 sweaty bodies just laughing and dancing.
I don't know.
I mean, the guests didn't seem to care.
We all like different smells.
The guests didn't seem to care. They were having a good time of their lives.
Like cigarettes and cologne. Oh, something about. Anyway, go ahead.
Ugh. There were 2 shows that evening in the main dining room where the band would play a set while people got up and danced. And backstage, 17-year-old Dottie Miles was preparing for her Melody Lounge solo set. Some reports say she was 16, some say 17. Either way, she was really young. Dottie Miles, whose real name was Dorothy Metzger, was somewhat of a child prodigy. When she was 8 years old, she was asked to sing on the radio for a popular show called Kitty Hour in New York. It was clear she had a natural talent, so she started taking singing and dancing lessons. And by the time she was 12, she was performing at Carnegie Hall.
Well, damn.
She won awards for her vocal talent, and it wasn't long before NBC and CBS were inviting her to perform on their radio programs. So she was singing all over the place. Then in November of 1942, she was asked to perform a 3-week gig at the Coconut Grove's Melody Lounge. She was so excited because she found out that Jimmy Dorsey, a very famous band leader, was considering adding her to his orchestra as a featured vocalist.
Wow.
And he was going to meet with her while she was in Boston.
Okay.
This Saturday that we're talking about, November 28th, was Dottie's last night of that 3-week gig. So her engagement there is ending. She's ready to move on to bigger and better things. She arrived at the Grove around 9:15 that evening, went upstairs to her dressing room and changed into her costume, which was this beautiful long gown. And then over that, she wore a coordinating wool bolero jacket, just like
gorgeous.
Stunning.
Yeah.
Once she was dressed, she went down to the women's restroom on the main floor to relax and wait for her cue. Because it was like a women's lounge. You know, there was room to sit down and just like chill. This restroom was near the stairwell leading down to the basement. So she'd always wait there so that she could make an entrance as opposed to just like hanging out at the bar until it was time for her to sing.
Yeah. Well, and also she's 16.
Yeah. So it's like
I doubt
she can't get a drink.
Right.
So she's just chilling. Down in the Melody Lounge, it was packed. The crowd around that octagonal bar was 3 or 4 people deep. The bartenders were just going as fast as they could. The room, which typically could hold about 100 people, was filled with around 400 patrons that evening. Goody Goodell was the performer before Dottie's act. It was around 10:15 p.m. when Goody was on the stage in the basement playing the piano and singing Bing Crosby's White Christmas. Seated on a sofa tucked into the corner was a sailor who was cuddled up with his date, and they were getting all lovey-dovey. So the sailor decides he's going to make it a little darker where they're sitting. The lighting in the Melody Lounge was already pretty dim because it's just those light bulbs that are tucked into the coconut husks. But he decides he wants a little more privacy. So he reached up and he unscrewed the light bulb that was in the palm tree next to the sofa. John Bradley, the head bartender working in the Melody Lounge that night, notices this. He sees the corner has suddenly gone pitch black, but he was too busy behind the bar, so he just yelled for the busboy, 16-year-old Stanley Tomaszewski, to fix the light. Stanley Tomaszewski was a really good kid. Like his teachers described him as just one of the swell ones. He was just a swell kid. He was tall. He was good looking. He was an honor student at his high school, which was a school for boys, and he was a starting football player, talented kid. He got this job at the Coconut Grove after a friend told him about it, and he was just looking for a way to make some money for his mom who was sick and to kind of help out his dad who was a janitor and like wasn't making a ton of money. And he wanted to be able to afford to buy some war bonds. There was such a push for people to buy those.
Yeah.
Just trying to do his thing, do his job. Good kid. So Stanley follows orders, walks over to the couple that has unscrewed this light bulb. He's like, hey, I'm so sorry, but I need to fix the light. We just can't have it be this dark. Stanley reached into the coconut husk up in the tree to adjust the bulb, but it fell out of the socket. So in order to see to get it back in, he lit a match just so he'd have some lighting. He gets the bulb back in. It's working again. He blows out the match, drops it on the floor, and snuffs it out with his shoe. Just as he went back to the task of clearing people's empty glasses from tables, someone in the crowd shouted that there was a fire in the top of the artificial palm tree. Stanley rushed over, as did that bartender, John, and they start batting at the tree, trying to pull the fronds down and beat the fire out. Meanwhile, other employees start throwing pitchers of water onto the tree. And at first, guests thought the whole thing was kind of funny. Like all these men hitting this palm tree, trying to pull pieces of it down, taking turns tossing water on it. It wasn't a big fire at all. It was very small. And people weren't immediately concerned. So everyone just watched and laughed as the staff tried to put the fire out. Meanwhile, no one upstairs had any idea what was going on in the basement. When Mickey Alpert and bandleader Bernie Fazioli started to play the Star-Spangled Banner, that was the cue that the second show in the main dining room was starting, and Dottie's set down in the Melody Lounge was up next. When Dottie heard the first notes of the national anthem, she walked out of the lounge and started to make her way to the basement stairwell. The employees downstairs had finally managed to pull down the burning fronds, but not before they'd made contact with the satin fabric draped from the ceiling.
Fuck. See, that's the thing about fires. It goes whoosh.
So fast.
It can't, yeah, it's insane.
Just as Dottie was about to head down, she saw a light from down there getting brighter and brighter and then heard a huge explosion. In the basement, once the fire got that satin fabric, it quickly spread across the whole ceiling.
Oh my God. Now that's fucking terrifying.
A Marine named Don Lauer got his pocket knife out and started slashing at the fabric, trying to cut it down so that it wouldn't spread, but to no avail. Suddenly, pieces of burning fabric started falling onto people. Like, it's literally raining fire onto them. Their clothes are catching on fire. Their hair is on fire. And the only exit they know of is the one narrow stairwell leading up to the main floor.
No.
So now 400 patrons rush towards the stairwell. The ceiling of the stairwell was also covered in that drapey fabric, so the fire quickly traveled up. People were clamoring to try and escape. One couple, Ruth and Hyman Strogoff, didn't want to take their chances, and they'd actually headed toward the exit as soon as they saw flames in the tree. But the fire spread so fast that by the time they reached the stairwell, the ceiling was already raining down this flaming fabric, and all these people rushed the stairs. So people were pulling and clawing at Ruth and Hyman, who had been in the front, just like fighting each other to get out of there. And unfortunately, Hyman got pulled down and was trampled to death.
Oh my God.
And Ruth just had to watch it happen. She had tried to pull him out from underneath all of these people, but it was impossible. And she was on fire. Like, her clothes were literally on fire. Many died just trying to get up the stairwell, either from being trampled or from smoke inhalation or being burned to death. Some people passed out as they made their way up the exit. So bodies were piling up on the stairs until it was completely blocked. Don Lauer, the Marine who tried cutting down the fabric with his pocket knife, died in the Melody Lounge. I've also seen the name John Bauer, who was in the Navy, listed as being at the Grove that night. This could be the same person, just with records and witness accounts losing some accuracy over the years. But maybe they are two different people. I just wanted to put that out there.
Okay.
His friend that was with him that night, Matt Lane, survived by jumping onto the stair railing. He can't go up the stairs because there's bodies. So he jumps on the railing and used it to climb his way up the 15 steps.
God.
All this while the band upstairs is playing the Star-Spangled Banner.
That is horrifically poetic.
Yes, it is so eerie. And people are dancing, completely unaware of what's happening below. Soon, someone in the main dining hall noticed smoke coming from the stairwell and began shouting, "Fire, fire!" But with all the people and the music, there was so much commotion you couldn't really tell what they were saying. So some customers thought the person was shouting, "Fight, fight!"
No.
Because some of the Holy Cross football fans had shown up and people thought a fight was breaking out between fans of the rival team.
I see.
Dottie, who was at the top of the stairs, was knocked on her back when she heard that explosion. And just as she was able to get up and make her way to the main dining room, all the lights in the club went out.
Oh my God.
The entire place went pitch black except for the light from the flames.
That's terrifying.
Which were now making their way through the main dining room, the caricature bar, and towards the Broadway lounge. Hundreds of people screamed as they tried to feel their way towards the exit, but the only exit most of them were aware of was the single revolving door on Piedmont Street. People were crawling on the floor, knocking over tables and chairs, tripping over furniture, tripping over other people, just trying to find their way through the dark as they're breathing in smoke and toxic gaseous fumes.
Right.
The lucky few who managed to make it out of the revolving door early survived.
Good.
But within minutes, just like the stairwell of the Melody Lounge, the mass of people rushing for the exit caused that door to jam and bodies began to pile up. Dottie got knocked down by the crowd in her attempt to escape, and she ended up falling face first into an overturned table, which broke her nose. So now she's covered in blood. And then before she could stand back up, she was trampled by several people trying to get out. She managed to crawl her way to what looked like a door leading outside, but before she could reach it, she was once again trampled by the crowd. And she's a small girl. She's tiny. People were losing consciousness mid-escape and just dropping to the floor. Like they're running and just falling. Dottie was trapped underneath a pile of bodies. Only her hand was visible. The only other public exit was in the Broadway Lounge, the newest addition to the club. This lounge had only opened like 11 days earlier.
Yeah.
The Broadway exit was about a full city block from the Piedmont Street exit. Some people didn't even know it existed because they had entered through the main entrance off Piedmont.
Right.
There were about 250 patrons in the Broadway Lounge that night. Since this lounge was the furthest away from the main dining room, the people inside were the last to know that there was any danger. The fire kept getting bigger and hotter in the main hall so that by the time it reached the short passageway to the Broadway Lounge, so much pressure had built up that the fire shot through the lounge like a torch.
Oh my God, no.
Yeah.
That's terrifying.
Dozens of people raced for the Broadway exit only to be held up by the fact that that door opened inward. So you've got this mass of bodies pushing up against the exit, making it so that the door can't open.
I'm getting like claustrophobic over here, Kate.
I
Like,
know.
This is terrifying.
It's rough. I think that's why I'm like,
Is that why you're getting out of breath?
Constantly like having to take deep breaths because you just like feel.
I can feel the thickness of that smoke and everything that's happening and all the people panicking.
It's just black in there and flames. And you don't know where you are.
What do you do?
As with the main exit on Piedmont, bodies began to pile up in front of the Broadway exit door. The entire club was now engulfed in toxic fumes, smoke, and flames. Some people didn't even have time to get up from where they were dining before losing consciousness. It only took a few seconds of breathing in those fumes to pass out, which caused many people to die right there in their seats.
Oh.
A lot of them didn't even have burn marks. It was just the gases that caused their deaths. The air they're breathing is also scorching hot, so it's literally burning their lungs every time they inhale. Some people, however, were burned beyond recognition.
Yeah.
The staff fared a little better than the patrons because they knew of windows that could be opened where they could crawl out to safety. Down in the basement, in the kitchen, there was a window that led out to the street. So some of the employees made their way out there and were able to help some of the guests who followed them out that way. This window led to an alley behind an apartment building. Margaret Foley, who lived on the ground floor, was not yet aware of the fire next door when suddenly people who had escaped through that kitchen window burst through her back door, ran through her apartment, and out the front door.
Weapon style.
Right? That's really what I thought.
Yeah.
Can you imagine just winding down for the evening? Maybe you're listening to the radio. It's a peaceful night. Maybe you've got a nice cup of tea. And all of a sudden, strangers come running and screaming through your house.
Oh my God.
She said she would estimate about 50 people ran through her apartment that
Wow.
night. Another group of patrons down in the Melody Lounge found their way to the walk-in refrigerator in the kitchen, and they stayed in there until the fire was out. Goody Goodell, who'd been performing White Christmas, and bartender Daniel Weiss poured water on a bunch of napkins and used them to cover their noses and mouths, then crawled along the floor to the kitchen and escaped out the window.
Good for them.
Another man couldn't find any water around, so he peed on a bunch of napkins and covered his nose and mouth, and he survived because he did that.
Well, fuck. I mean, do whatever you can to survive.
Exactly. He's like, I don't know what to do here. I will just urinate all over these napkins and then breathe that in because that is better than breathing in
all those fumes
all
and the
those
smoke.
fumes. Yep.
Whoa. I had no idea.
Also, I don't know if I could pee in that moment. Honestly, like I thought about that. I was like, I don't know if I would be able to, in that kind of state and panic, be able to pee.
I don't know. I wonder if it's got something to do with like that panicked adrenaline feeling to where you will do anything, your body will do anything to survive, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's even a thing.
Oh, I just can't even imagine. Another guy found a container of ice cream and buried his face in it while looking for an exit. So he also survived.
Just a tub of ice cream right
Tub
here?
of ice cream. Just shoved his face in it and hoped for the best.
I usually do that just as like a person who likes ice cream. Now
It
that
could
I know
save
it could
your
save my
life one
life.
day. Firefighters responded quickly. They had actually been responding to a car fire just 3 blocks away when the Coconut Grove fire broke out. So they see smoke and people running and they were like, we should go check that out. The fire chief called in a 3-alarm fire, which was quickly upgraded to a 5-alarm fire.
Whoa.
I honestly had never even heard of a 5-alarm.
I don't know.
I'd only heard of 3-alarm before.
What does that mean? I don't know what 3-alarm means.
It increases with the severity of the fire. So like
Got it.
3 is bad. A 3-alarm fire, that's like tons of trucks are coming. That's bad. A 4-alarm or 5-alarm means you're probably bringing in different engines, like from different fire departments. You're calling
all around,
in.
everybody.
It's like all hands
all
on
hands
deck.
on deck.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense.
The pressure from all of the bodies against the Piedmont exit revolving door caused that door to collapse, which created an opening to the outside, which fueled the fire, causing flames to whoosh and burn everything around the entrance.
Oh.
To get into the building, firefighters had to climb over all those bodies at the collapsed revolving door, which they estimated were stacked about 6 feet high. Just a mound of bodies. After putting out any remaining fire inside, they had the task of removing the bodies at the entrances. They couldn't tell some of the living from the dead. So they just started pulling bodies out onto the sidewalk. And some were burned so badly that when firefighters went to pull them out, the person's arms or legs would come off in their hands.
No.
Just let that sit for a second. Like you are trying to save someone or trying to remove someone and their limbs just come off as you pull on them. Outside, the temperatures were below freezing. The fire hoses were becoming frozen to the ground. The water was causing the roads and sidewalks to become icy, and as rescuers were pulling people from the building, Some were still smoldering, so firefighters had to hose them down with the freezing cold water, living or dead. So if you were conscious during that, going from a blazing hot inferno to ice cold, I cannot imagine. Pandemonium. It was pandemonium.
Oh.
Crowds were forming in the front of the building, which only hindered rescue efforts. Mm-hmm. Some of those people were people that had managed to escape but were looking for their loved ones.
Sure.
Some were just curious passersby, and others, because people are disgusting, were scumbags that started going through victims' pockets, stealing their wallets, their jewelry, whatever they could get their hands on.
Fuck those people right to hell.
Because people are vile. The Coast Guard and the National Guard were called in to help with rescue efforts.
Yeah.
Bodies, living or dead, because they sometimes couldn't tell, were loaded onto ambulances or into taxis, newspaper trucks, whatever could be used to get people to hospitals. There were some people who were still alive but thought to be dead, and they were taken to mortuaries and makeshift morgues. Can you imagine?
What?
Yeah.
Did those people like wake up at the mortuary?
I think they showed signs of life, and so then the people were like, oh shit, this person's alive. So then they were transported to hospitals.
Thank God.
No surprise here, the hospitals were overwhelmed. Boston City Hospital received 300 bodies, essentially one body every 11 seconds. Most of them were dead on arrival. Others died in the hospital.
Yeah.
Massachusetts General Hospital received 114 victims, most of whom were already dead or died soon after. And one of these victims was 15-year-old Eleanor Champa, who'd been so excited to enjoy her first night out at the Coconut Grove and was having such a great time with her brother, his wife, and the other couple. Mm-hmm. Of their group, only the 2 men survived. Of the 27 people in Buck Jones's party, 17 were killed, including Buck Jones.
Buck died?
He did.
No.
He didn't even want to go out that night. He just wanted to go back to his
home.
hotel. He wanted to go to sleep. Stories circulated that Buck had escaped but re-entered the building to save others in his party. However, that was proven false given the fact that he was found right by where he'd been sitting for dinner. The fumes got him before the fire did. He was actually alive when firefighters got to him, but he later died in the hospital.
Okay.
The publicist, Martin Sheridan, who also had no interest in going to the Grove that night, managed to survive, but his wife, Connie, did not.
Connie!
Scott Dunlap was in critical condition, but he did survive. He was the producer
Right.
taking him around.
Movie guy.
As firefighters continued working to remove victims from the building, they noticed a hand sticking out from underneath a pile of bodies. When that hand started to wiggle a bit, a firefighter shouted, "This one's alive." He told her to take it easy, and he pulled her from underneath the weight of all those people. 17-year-old Dottie Miles was alive, but barely. She was taken out to the street and helped onto a patrol wagon filled with other victims headed to the hospital. Her gown had been completely burned off. All she had on was a pair of underwear and a few remaining remnants of her bolero jacket.
Oh my God.
Of all the people in the patrol wagon, she was the only one still alive when it arrived at the hospital.
Oh.
She had burns on more than 45% of her body and a broken nose when she fell into that table. Doctors gave her a 50-50 chance of survival. Mm-hmm. Like many of the victims, she remained in the hospital for months.
Sure.
Enduring multiple skin graft operations, she lost almost 25 pounds in the hospital, dropping to just 98 pounds.
Oh, that's too thin.
But doctors needed a larger area of skin that they could get grafts from. So they basically force-fed her. They were constantly having her eat until she was 165 pounds.
Wow.
After 6 months in the hospital, she was finally released, but stayed in Boston because the next 2 years of her life were just operation after operation. It was doubtful she'd ever sing again, but she persevered. Her career definitely wasn't what many prior to the fire had expected it to be, but she did perform on the radio and recorded a few songs and eventually was given the name Dauntless Dottie.
Wow.
Several chorus members like tap dancers for the floor shows died in the fire, although some were able to escape through a window in their dressing room that led out onto the roof. They were only like a story up, so some jumped down and firefighters were able to get a ladder to help the others. Other stories that emerged in the aftermath included that of John and Claudia O'Neill. They had just gotten married earlier that afternoon in Cambridge, and to celebrate, they wanted to go out for drinks with their best man and maid of honor. Originally, the group was going to go to another club, but at the last minute, they were like, you know what, let's go to the Grove. All 4 died in the fire.
Oh, man.
Harry Fitzgerald was a private in the Army Air Corps, and he was home that Thanksgiving weekend on leave. It had been several months since he'd seen his family. He was the youngest of 4 boys, and their dad had died when they were young, so it was the 4 brothers and their mom. Harry's brothers were so excited for a night out on the town with him. Mm-hmm. So they all got ready that evening and picked up their dates, and the group headed to the Grove. The mom didn't go. She was like, it's a night for the kids, like it's for the young folks. As for so many at the club that evening, the night started out joyful for the group. But once the fire broke out, they were unable to escape. All 4 brothers and their dates died that night. That mom lost 4 sons all at once. And the way people found out about their loved ones was awful. The newspapers kept printing updates with the list of the hospitals and mortuaries and a number of how many victims were at each. And people just had to go and see if they could find out anything. Ugh. And then as victims were identified, those names were listed in the paper. So with every update, you're checking the paper to see if your loved one's name is in there. And you're kind of hoping it's not, but you're kind of hoping it is, so that at least you know. The women were the hardest to identify because most of their belongings and identification were in their purses, which were either burned or scattered in the rubble. Whereas the men had wallets on them, which helped make identifying them a little easier, and some were identified by dental records. Some, particularly servicemen, because there were so many servicemen on leave for the holiday, they weren't even known to have been at the club that Saturday because a lot of them were from out of town. They had come from other places. So when those men didn't report for duty in the days after the fire, officers questioned their whereabouts and set up call centers to find out the status of those missing men, only to learn they had in fact been at the Grove when the fire happened. A family of 10, all funeral directors, ironically, had been dining at the Grove that Saturday. After the first show in the main dining room, 2 of them decided to check out a show at a nearby theater, while the rest decided to stick around the Grove for the second show. All those that stayed died. There was a party of 15, which included 2 young couples who were at the Grove that night to celebrate their wedding anniversaries. With them were their family members, including brothers, sisters, their spouses. They were all seated in the main dining hall when one of the guys got up and headed over to the caricature bar. That's when he looked back and noticed the fire starting to creep across the ceiling, and he yelled to his family to get up and follow him out, but they didn't move. I'm not sure if they didn't hear him or if they just didn't understand what was happening. He survived. The other 14 in his party died right there in their seats. Ugh. That's the thing. By the time most people realized, like, oh shit, there's a fire, they had already inhaled enough carbon monoxide to make them pass out. So some deaths were painless, I guess you could say.
Sure,
because they were unconscious.
Go to sleep.
But I just can't even imagine the carnage and panic and chaos and fear in that club. John Rizzo was a waiter who'd managed to escape the fire through a window. As he was about to exit, he told the cashier, Catherine Sweat, "Come on, let's go." But she knew how stern Barney Wilansky was about money, and she didn't want to get him mad at her. So she said, "I can't leave the money." She burned to death in the fire.
Barney, you fucking cunt.
John Rizzo's brother also worked at the Grove and had been taken to the hospital. And when John went to go see him, he also saw Bernie Fazioli, the band leader.
Yeah.
He chatted with Bernie a bit before going to see his brother, who had suffered some burns but was okay. He was maybe there 30 minutes, and then he headed down to the lobby to leave when he heard a woman scream. John asked one of the medical staff who it was and, like, if she's okay. And they said, "Oh, that's Mrs. Fazioli. Her husband died." And John said, "Bernie? Bernie's fine. I was just in his room talking to him." And they said, "No, he just died from all the smoke he inhaled."
Wow.
Yeah. Did you ever watch This Is Us?
No.
There's an episode where, so there's a big house fire and Jack, played by Mila Ventimiglia, he's like helping get everyone out. And then he goes back in for, I think, for the dog. Comes out, he survives. He's at the hospital. Mandy Moore's character is talking to him. Everything's good. She goes to the vending machine. And then as she's walking back, the doctors tell her that he died. And she's like, no, he didn't. Like, I was just in there. And they're like, no, the smoke got him.
Okay.
But Bernie Fazioli seemed fine. He was talking to John. He was like, oh, yeah, your brother's down the hall. Like, all good. We're good here. And then he just dies.
My goodness.
When the final count was in, the number of people killed in the Coconut Grove fire was 492. Some reports state 490, but there were 2 more that died months later in the hospital after succumbing to their injuries.
Yeah.
166 were listed as injured, but those were only the ones who were treated at hospitals, so that number is likely higher.
Sure.
The Coconut Grove fire is the second deadliest single fire event in America's history, second only to Chicago's Iroquois Theater of 1903.
Yeah.
We will cover that one eventually. Not this year, because this one's enough.
I thought we did cover it.
I don't think we did.
I feel like, yeah.
Did we?
I think.
Oh my God. We've reached the point where we don't even really remember.
No, I remember. I feel like I remember you telling me the story down in the crime closet because you gave an account of like, you know, what was going on stage and then the fire curtain. Yeah, I'm almost positive.
I'm going to look it up because I don't feel like we've actually covered it. I feel like maybe we've mentioned it. I'm going to look it up.
Okay.
I'm going to like, or a listener's going to look it up and they're going to be like, Kate, you're such a dumbass. You already talked about this. If you include the 9/11 attacks on the World Trade Center in the statistic, then the Coconut Grove is the third deadliest because the World Trade Center will be first. But
yeah.
If you're just looking at single fire event, Iroquois Theater, and then Coconut Grove. Fire investigators conducted interviews with witnesses and survivors, including 16-year-old busboy Stanley Tomaszewski. Stanley was honest and forthcoming about his experience that evening, how he'd lit the match to help him see to replace the light bulb. He actually volunteered his statement, like he walked into the police station and told them everything that he knew. Public hearings were conducted that Monday. He testified, he gave his statement. Very honest. The media was ruthless. Stanley was vilified in the press. He was getting death threats. This poor kid, this is his first job, and he was only doing what he'd been told to do. The threats got so intense that Stanley was kept hidden at a Boston hotel under police protection for months. Fire Commissioner William Riley came to Stanley's defense, however, and tried to take the blame off him, and even wrote in his official report, quote, "From all the evidence before me, I am unable to determine the original cause or causes of this fire. A busboy, age 16, testified to lighting a match in the process of replacing an electric bulb in the corner of the Melody Lounge, where the fire started, and dropping the match to the floor and stepping up on it. After a careful study of all the evidence, I am unable to find the conduct of this boy was the cause of the fire."
Right.
Subtext, I'm not going to let you people destroy this kid's life.
Yeah.
Also, there were so many other factors involved in the fire. So really, you couldn't pinpoint that it was him lighting that match.
No.
Stanley, however, had to carry that burden for the rest of his days. The friend who had gotten him that job died in that fire. I think the fire chief knew what Stanley was going to have to endure the rest of his life, just wanted to help lift that burden off of him a little bit. Eventually, a grand jury indicted 10 people for their role in the tragedy, including a fire lieutenant who had inspected the property just days before the fire, like 8 days, said everything was up to code. It wasn't. A building inspector who looked the other way when the new Broadway lounge was added without proper permits, a police captain, employees, and contractors of the club, all responsible for building code violations. And of course, the owner himself, Barney Wilansky, who on the night of the fire was resting comfortably in his hospital bed, recovering from a heart attack, as more than 100 of his patrons were brought into the same hospital dead on arrival.
Wow.
His brother did get out safe. Mickey Alpert also survived. The criminal investigations found that hundreds of lives could have been saved if Barney hadn't locked all the emergency exits for fear people would skip out on their bills.
Cheapskate little bitch.
He even boarded up windows, concealed exit doors with wood paneling so they looked the same as the rest of the walls. One of the exits he had completely bricked in. There was an emergency exit at the top of that narrow stairwell from the basement that could have saved so many people trying to escape the Melody Lounge. That door had a panic lock on it that was designed to release in an emergency, but the door had been bolted shut, rendering the panic release useless. Pair that with all the highly flammable decorations, the overcrowding, it was only a matter of time before disaster struck.
Sure.
In the end, only Barney Wilansky was convicted. He was found guilty on 19 counts of manslaughter. I do not know why 19. The most I could find out about it was that they just used a random number of 19 to represent the victims. I don't understand it.
That's strange. It should be hundreds.
Should be 492.
Yeah.
He was sentenced to just 12 to 15 years in prison, which for the deaths of 492 seems a pretty light sentence. However, his good friend, Maurice Tobin, who became governor of Massachusetts now, pardoned Wilansky after he'd served barely 3 years. 9 weeks later, Barney Wilansky died of lung cancer, which...
That's pretty karmic.
There is a weird poetic justice to that. After the Coconut Grove fire, building codes were amended not just in Boston, but all over. Revolving doors were outlawed, though later reinstated as long as 2 outward opening doors were placed on either side. That's the thing. There was a door next to the revolving door, but Barney had covered it with the coat check room.
What the fuck?
Yeah. Exits had to be clearly marked and free of any blockage, and buildings had to install emergency lighting and sprinklers. The fire resulted in advancements in the treatment of burn victims. The first recorded general use of penicillin to fight infection on burn victims occurred at Massachusetts General Hospital on December 2nd, 1942.
Wow.
Certain dyes and solutions were used on the skin to fight infection, and as I mentioned before, skin grafts were a common treatment for the burn victims. There have been a lot of books written about this case. In her book, The Coconut Grove Nightclub Fire, A Boston Tragedy, which I used while researching this, author Stephanie Shoro, I hope I said that right, writes, quote, whether the match or methyl chloride caused the fire. Methyl chloride is a substitute for Freon. And so there was a report that some of that might have been leaking in the refrigerator system. So just putting that out there. Whether the match or methyl chloride caused the fire, no matter whether strange gases were released by the furnishings or by a mysterious chemical, the major causes of death in the Grove were the locked doors, inadequate exits, and crowded conditions. Whatever the initial spark, greed and thoughtlessness were the real killers.
For sure.
The effects of the fire were felt for lifetimes and from generation to generation, from people whose family members had been in the fire to those who had a near miss. Like maybe they had stopped by earlier that night but decided to leave and go see another show, or they just chose to stay in that night even though their friend wanted them to go to the Grove. So those people then get married and they had kids, and those kids had kids, and those kids say, wow, I would not be here if Grandma Ellie hadn't escaped the fire, hadn't have gone across the street that night instead of going to the Grove. So there's a lot of that still lingers among people.
Of course, with many tragedies.
Yeah, and there was also a lot of guilt among survivors. One man who was there with a date, he escaped, but he was unable to get his wife out.
Sure.
And he, content warning for suicide here, he leapt to his death from a hospital window.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. There are some videos that were shot years ago with survivors talking, and a common thing was people always sat near the exits whenever they would go out, like for the rest of their life. They would just always sit in the exit. One of these guys was Bob Shumway. His family didn't even know that he was one of the Coconut Grove survivors. He never talked about it.
Never said anything about it.
And his son didn't even realize it until I think it was the 70th anniversary. And he was like, yeah, that's the first time that I realized it. And for my entire life, Dad always wanted to sit by the exit. And I never understood that. It makes so much sense. Bob Shumway, who I was just talking about, he was the last known survivor of the fire. He just died this past summer at 101.
Wow.
Yeah. This Saturday, November 29th at 3 p.m., a vigil will be held for the fire victims at Piedmont Street, just behind the Revere Hotel. When we went to Boston, we stayed at the Revere.
Whoa.
Had no idea about this story.
Yeah.
Had no idea that all this happened right there.
Right there.
This vigil is held every year, and a memorial to the victims will be dedicated in nearby Statler Park in May of 2026, which will list the names of all of the victims. If you would like to donate to the Coconut Grove Memorial Fund, because they could really use your donations to get that memorial up and going, you can do so by going to coconutgrove.org. That's COCOANUTGROVE.org. And I'll also put a link to it in the show notes. That is the case of the Coconut Grove fire.
Kate, that was so uncomfortable and wild and
It's
terrifying.
really awful.
And probably one of the worst things I've heard about.
It was really tough. When I was researching it and I read the part about the limbs coming off, I closed my computer and I walked out of the room. And I told Matt, I was like, you know what? I think I'm done for the night. I don't think I can read on right now.
Just take a break.
Yeah, really, really awful. That being said, tomorrow we will bring you back up.
Yes. I thought you were going to go into like have a happy Thanksgiving. I was like,
Party, guys. No. Tomorrow we are going to bring you back up. We do have a very fun conversation with some really cool people on a really cool topic. And we hope that whatever you're doing this weekend, that you're safe, that you're with people you love.
be safe. Yeah.
And we are grateful that all of you guys are here. Thank you for listening. And you can leave your comments on the episode on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, or Spotify at
Horrorwood Podcast.
You can send us an email at
horrorwoodpodcast@gmail.com.
You can be like our newest misfit murderino, Sarah Newell, on Patreon at
patreon.com/horrorwoodpodcast.
or go to Apple subscriptions.
Over to Apple and search Horrorwood Podcast.
Don't know how to factor that
We haven't
in.
figured that out just yet.
We'll
Listen,
do.
We'll get there.
Eventually. I thought rather than our theme music starting right away, Dottie Miles could take us out.
Oh,
She
sorry, I squeaked like that.
That's okay.
Yay!
She recorded this like when she was in her mid-20s, so a few
Okay.
years after the fire. I'm going to play a little bit of her just so you can hear her, and then we'll bring the music up.